Tesla beating across the board, expanding production on 3 continents. What are your headline takeaways here?
Yeah, well, you all just touched on it. I think one of the big takeaways is that they said that Shanghai is a big export hub for them. I think that'll help them on margins. I also think, this is what the Chinese government wants. They've wanted to be an auto exporter for years, and Tesla is making that possible in electric vehicles, one of their, areas that they really have been focusing on over the past 5 years. So I think that's huge. In my space, we also saw that the FSD beta version 9 was recently rolled out to customers. Videos look good. It's not perfect, right? Dense urban areas like San Francisco, still tough for the system, but in suburban streets, it's pretty good. And this is its vision-only system. I just put out a Medium piece. We think that the ride-hail opportunity is an 11 to 12 trillion dollar opportunity, and Tesla's data advantage is really huge there.
If the ride-sharing opportunity, when do you see that actually starting to play out?
Yeah, well, so I think over the next, say, year or two, we could see the first implementations of a fully autonomous version of autopilot. Again, I think the beta program is sort of the early innings of that. Elon has said that by version 10 or 11, we're on 9 right now, they'll make the release to all customers to download. So I think that's sort of the next step to look for. And then maybe over the next year or so, the first implementation of full self-driving. But we think this could be extremely profitable, totally change the business model, become a recurring revenue stream. At the same time, if Tesla were to fall short of meeting that deadline, we actually think they could profitably run a ride-hail service today because they have better economics than Uber and Lyft. Their cars are cheaper per mile to drive, and I think the verticalization of the Tesla strategy could really help them in that market.
Now let's talk about the potential weak spots. Tesla saying the chip shortage is still problematic. How much of a challenge do you think that is going to be for Tesla in particular? How much uncertainty is that injecting into your models?
I'm glad you asked that, Emily, because I think one of the other really interesting things of the report is they said that they're working on 19 new variants of controllers. I actually think that Tesla, compared to other automakers, is really set up well to deal with this shortage because of the talent that they have in-house. Both the software and the hardware teams that they have allow them to actually explore those new opportunities, write new firmware, and actually make decisions quickly to adopt a new strategy when you have a chip shortage. So again, I think, yes, while they are affected by it, like every other automaker, I think that they're better set up than most to handle it.
Now, the company recorded a $23 million charge against their Bitcoin holdings. Of course, everyone wants to know if Tesla's going to start accepting Bitcoin again. Elon has given a few hints, but certainly hasn't confirmed anything. How concerned are you about Tesla's Bitcoin position, and would you like the company to start accepting it again or not?
Yeah, ARK Invest has done a lot of work on Bitcoin. My colleague Yassine is an expert on the area. In general, Bitcoin as corporate cash, we wrote about this in our Big Ideas presentation earlier this year. If 1% of all S&P 500 companies if they devoted 1% of their cash to Bitcoin, this could actually up the price by about $40,000. And, we think that this could be a smart thing to do. If you're a company like Tesla that wants to, operate in many different markets, for instance, instead of hedging that foreign currency, you could accept Bitcoin. Now, Tesla did pause accepting payments. Elon had said that he was looking to be sure that the energy that's used for Bitcoin is clean energy, right? But actually recently, last week, on the B word, which Kathy, our CIO, participated in, she spoke with Elon and Jack Dorsey. He actually seemed incrementally positive on Bitcoin, I have to say. And he said that they're looking to make sure that a certain percentage of mining will meet that clean energy requirement. But it sounded like he thought more likely than not they would in the future again begin to accept those payments in Bitcoin. So I think it's a smart move on their part. I think that the accounting treatment of Bitcoin might be reconsidered in the future. And Kathy has said that in the past. The way that it's treated right now as an asset, but in general, for transactions, it actually could be a pretty smart move.
I want to talk a little bit about the China story. Production in Shanghai remaining strong, huge market for exports, but the mix is changing a little bit. We're seeing more lower value cars being sold. What are you looking for specifically when it comes to China, and how do you expect that story to play out?
Well, I think that'll definitely come up on the call tonight. So that's something that I'm looking to hear. I think specifically for China, again, the big news is that it's an export hub. I think that's something really key to watch out for. Although, in terms of the average selling price, in our valuation for Tesla, over the next 5 years, we do think that as they expand, as volumes grow, they can only penetrate so much of each price segment before going down to the next segment. So, it's not too much of a surprise to see this mix shift temporarily change things. I think one of the bigger things that we're looking out for is, how sort of autopilot is working in China right now. If you look at it compared to competitor systems, it's actually not. It might not be quite as good as some of the Chinese-owned companies. I really think they're focusing most of their effort on the U.S., but they are working on setting. And that's actually not a bad idea, by the way, to focus on the U.S., because we think that's a larger opportunity. If you look at how high ride hailing is priced here, it's about $2 per mile. In China, you can get rides for 50 cents per mile. So there's a bigger opportunity to exploit there as autonomous brings down the price of point-to-point travel. That said, I'd like to see sort of how that develops in China. How sort of autopilot is tracking there relative to competitor systems, sort of what they're thinking about data. I think they've been really cautious on that, which is a good thing, seeing, as we've seen the regulatory environment change there. But it'll be interesting to get any sort of update.